Hi, BJD addicts of YouTube, it's Foxanne again. I am here with my doll Rail, and behind us you can see we have a little audience, my other SDs sitting on their little shelf. I am here to do prompt number 2 and 3. I'm combining prompts because these two specific prompts I don't really have that much to talk about. So anyway, prompt number 2 is fears. And what am I afraid of happening to my dolls? I have a list of irrational fears that are pretty silly, and I'm not going to tell you what they are. But more realistic fears, I think back when I was a newbie and first got into the hobby, I heard about the dreaded yellowing of resin. It was pretty horrifying to learn that the resin yellows over time. Yes, it takes a long time for them to yellow, depending on how you treat them. But at the time, it was terrifying because, of course, I thought they yellow right away, and I don't want to spend that much money if they turn this nasty yellow color. And actually, I was relieved to learn that no, they don't yellow over time, over a short amount of time. They yellow for long periods. It takes quite a long time. And there are ways to avoid yellowing. There are sealants out there that have UV protection, and basically the responsible thing to do is don't leave them out in direct sunlight. That's it. Other than that, I don't get direct sunlight in my apartment, and so my dolls sit out. And I have a doll that's 7 years old, and he's hardly yellowed at all. So yeah, just be responsible. Don't put them in direct sunlight. I mean, you can do like short spurts where they're in the sun. It's not going to hurt them. But yeah. Another fear I had was restringing. I had no idea how to restring, and some companies, they'll send these little manuals, and you get it, and it's like, oh good, they sent a manual to tell me how to restring, and you open it up, and it's like, it's in a foreign language. And of course there's pictures, but it's some direction would help. But so those manuals are kind of useless unless you know how to speak that language and read that language. And those manuals usually just stay in the box and never see the light of day. I actually had to look up tutorials on how to restring, and that was very helpful. And an odd little side note, I actually like restringing. Oddly enough, I find it relaxing, especially depending on the doll that I'm restringing. My little fee, as I mentioned in my introduction, I am not even going to attempt to restring my little fee because I'd be like horrified if I wasn't able to put the little thing back together again. Another fear I have is losing body parts. Yeah, I have a few mini fees and a little fee, and they come with magnetic hands, which means the hand, it attaches to the arm with magnets. It's not actually, as you can see, Braille doesn't have magnetic hands. It's an S-hook, and it's attached to the elastic on the inside. So on a mini fee, on this point here, right there, it's attached with a magnet, and you can take the hands off. And I am horrified of losing a mini fee hand or my little fee's hands. And I've been so tempted to just glue them in place, but I don't because it is useful. They come off It's easier to get clothes on them that they come off. And if you have different hands in different poses, it's fun to play with the different hands in different poses. I actually don't have other hands for them, so the only useful thing I get out of it is that I can take them off, and it's easier to put on different shirts and stuff. So yeah, another fear is damage. Yeah. It's a healthy fear. All BJD owners probably have a fear of damaging their dolls. I've seen dolls take face dives onto the floor or onto ground, and it's like you hold your breath and hope that they don't break anything. These guys are pretty resilient. Resin is a very kind of finicky plastic, basically. And Rail actually came to me with this hand damaged. When I got his body in the mail, the thumb was completely broken off. So it's, even in the mail, they can get damaged even when they're packaged. It really depends on what happens, how they fall, what they fall on, how far they fall, and that kind of thing. But I've had my dolls take face plants before, and I've never had them break anything, thankfully. Knock on wood. I don't want anything to happen. But yeah, I've seen some horrifying pictures of dolls with broken fingers. I read about a doll getting his fingers broken and falling and breaking off 3 of his fingers at the same time. And one picture was of a doll with its nose sheared clean off from face planting on the floor. And it's like but yeah, damage is an healthy fear to have if you're in this hobby. It makes you a lot more conscious of how you pose your dolls and where you put your dolls. So this fear might sound a little irrational, but to me it isn't. It's a very likely thing that could happen in this building. I live in an apartment building for the mentally and physically disabled and the elderly, and I myself am mentally and physically disabled. But yeah, I'll admit I have a very poor memory sometimes, and I have left my stove on. Thankfully, I've never started a fire in the building, and that's my fear of a fire starting out and I'm not able to save my dolls. Yeah, I can't control what other people do in their apartment, and there are smokers in the building, which actually you aren't allowed to do in the building. But yeah, I think that's it for my fears. Moving on to prompt number 3, funny stories. This story happened to Rail's body when it got here. I was down waiting in the lobby, all excited and happy that his body was here and I was going to get another full SD. And at the time I only had my boy Rune, so a second SD sounded like a lot of fun, and I was excited to actually get him finished with a full body. And anyway, I guess I was hugging the box and I was in the elevator, and this little old lady got on the elevator and she saw how happy I was, and she asked me, "What's in the box?" And I said, "A body," and grinned so big that she went and backed away from me. She went to the farthest corner of the elevator she could get away from me, like I was insane or something. And I didn't realize how it looked at the time until I got down to my apartment and inside. And I stopped and I thought about it, and I was like, oh no! She must think I'm insane or a serial killer or something. So yeah, there was that time, and then another time was actually last night. I am expecting the glass eyes for my boy Hayden, the one in white. And I hate it when tracking numbers do not update for days. And it had been 5 days since this tracking number had updated, and I was getting very, very frustrated. And I was on Skype talking to one of my friends in a call, and so we were actually talking back and forth to each other, and he was doing a digital painting, and I exclaimed, "Why aren't my eyeballs moving? I want my eyeballs right now." And he, of course, probably went, "What?" And he was like, "What are you talking about, eyeballs? What are you waiting for eyeballs for?" And I spent the next few minutes explaining that they were glass eyes for my doll, and he sounded very relieved on the phone, on Skype, and because I'm already known as being a little crazy, and so I think he was relieved that I wasn't even more crazy than he thought I was. So, yeah. That's all my funny stories and my fears that I have. And that's probably it for now, BJD addicts. I'll do more prompts later. I hope everyone has a good and safe Sunday. Bye!